The reality of a human being is they're inherently good. If I can't keep seeing that, even as at the very same time I see the horrible behavior, then I've lost my ability to heal the situation. I've lost connection with my own being, which is the even bigger tragedy. By the time I reached adulthood, I had daddy issues. I had issues with men, which is a weird place to be in as a man myself. I had unresolved, I guess you could call it trauma from my childhood with my own father, who died when I was 12, and my parents divorced when I was 6. And before they divorced, there were a number of incidents where he came home really drunk and screaming, and we were sneaking out of windows to get away from him. Despite that, I found him to be normally a super gentle and emotionally supportive guy, really smart and caring. But I had issues, right? Issues in my tissues, daddy issues in my tissues. I also had issues with men in general. Growing up in Texas in high school, I had a number of incidents with much bigger guys at my school, basically scaring the crap out of me. There was one notorious incident at a party where one of the biggest guys in the entire school, one of the football players, tried to start a fight with me and was surrounded by all of his friends, and I was just by myself. I was also tripping really hard on LSD. If I can give you one takeaway, is don't get beat up as a teenager on LSD at a party where you don't really know anybody. That's a really unpleasant experience that leaves a lasting mark. It can leave a mark, folks. I've cleared it up now. But when I reached adulthood as a young man, I had guy issues. I didn't trust men any further than I could throw one, as we say in Texas. Or I didn't trust men further than I could spit. But here I am at 56 years old, and I don't have daddy issues anymore. And I don't have issues with other men anymore. I would have an issue if a man came up and behaved badly to me, but I don't project my unresolved trauma and negative beliefs onto men as a group. I actually love men now, and I can see their goodness really easily and really clearly. And when I look around at society, I mostly see the goodness of men carved into the very landscape. When I look at streetlights, for example, this is a light that its only purpose is to make it easier and safer for everybody to move down the street at nighttime when it's dark. And almost certainly a man designed that, a man built it, a man installed it. All of those men doing all of that work just to improve society for everybody. Please understand, this isn't a male versus female thing. I could talk endlessly about the wonderful things that women do for all of us as well. But I'm just talking about guys right now. Now, when I look around me, I see the goodness of men all over the place. And that doesn't blind me to bad behavior. But anyway, one of the things that really helped me turn a corner with my trauma around men was joining a men's group that was focused specifically on helping men to heal from emotional wounds and support them being strong and kind and connected and helpful in society. That group, by the way, is called the Mankind Project, and I highly recommend it to every single man on the planet. I've done so much personal growth work through so many different modalities and groups and techniques and so on. And the Mankind Project stands right at the very top of that list in terms of how powerfully it healed me and transformed me, and how different I am now as a man in a positive way than I was before I got involved with that organization. In the Mankind Project, they have dozens and dozens of techniques to help people heal. And they have one particular technique, I think it's called clearing a charge. It means clearing an emotional charge. Whenever you're on staff at a Mankind Project event where you're going there to help other new men work through one of their programs, and they gather all the staff together in a room in a big circle, and one of the first questions they ask us is there any man in this room who's got an issue with another man in this room that's going to stop him from being fully present for the new men coming in to the program tomorrow? They start a day early in the Mankind Project for these big programs. They start a day early building the container of holding and healing for the men that are going to come in and take the program. All the men at those events do work on themselves starting a day before or even earlier to get clear and present and grounded so that they can hold space for these men coming in, right? That's how you do it. That's how you do healing work. There's no such thing as healing someone else when you're not doing the work yourself. So they start one of those programs a day early asking, is there any man in here who's got an issue with another man in here? If you do, please step forward and let's clear it so that you and the other guy can both be present, fully present, 100% there for these other men that are coming in. So they have this technique called clearing a charge. I don't know if that's the official name for it, but that's basically what it is. And the very first step, if I'm the guy who comes forward, like I got a charge with this other guy, he's said something mean to me, it hurt my feelings, I'm pissed off at him. The very first step is they will ask me to describe what happened. And this is the point of this video. It sounds easy, right? Describe what happened. No, 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 my friends. It is not easy to do that. In fact, most people can't do it the first try. It usually takes some coaching for people to figure out how to actually do that. How do you describe what happened without dumping all of your emotions and judgments onto it? Because that's not what happened. What happened is what physically occurred in material reality. Okay? It is what a camera would record if it had been set up and was aimed at the event. A camera doesn't judge what happens. You know, if a camera records two people talking, it doesn't call one of the people an idiot. Even if that person is acting like an idiot, the camera doesn't record that judgment. It doesn't have any emotion. It just records the physical actions that take place in material reality. And this is super duper important for all of us right now. So why do they do that in this technique? Why do they ask the person to separate all of their judgments and emotions out of what happened? Well, here's a hint. They do ask you to bring in your judgments and emotions, and they thoroughly hold space for that, and they let you let it out, man. You can come out with both barrels blazing and just do whatever you want to get those emotions out. In fact, they ask you, what are all the judgments you have against this man? And don't be sweet about it. Don't be spiritually evolved. Don't try to be high level. What do you got inside? What are you holding inside? What's the yucky, dirty judgments that you're holding about this other guy? But that comes later in the process. It's an important part of the process, but I think you could almost say that an even more important than our judgments and emotions is grounding ourselves into what really happened without all of those judgments and emotions. Because judgments and emotions, and here's the crux of the whole thing, judgments and emotions are not typically accurate in describing what's really going on. Our judgments and emotions are usually strongly influenced by our past. And if we have a lot of trauma around something, our judgments and emotions will sometimes express our trauma even more than they're expressing what actually happened in a particular incident with a person. It's so important to understand what's really going on without the emotions and judgments, because what's really going on, do you know what another name for that is? Another name for that is reality. Reality. It's important to separate, right? It's important to remove our emotions and judgments because they're not reliable. They're not reliable guides for us. They don't tell us reliably what's really going on in the world. I think it's important to have a place to express our judgments and emotions, especially the really toxic ones. If we're holding them inside, we do need a place to let them out. But I also think when we do that, we should have the container built around that process that lets us know that what we're letting out isn't necessarily true. What's true is that being is love. Being is love. That's a spiritual truth that I've discovered. You don't have to agree with it, but I'm just saying that for me, that's what's true about other people. Human beings are inherently good because that being part of a human beingness, consciousness, is pure goodness, is love, is awareness, is unity, connection, oneness with the totality. So human beings are inherently good. If I'm seeing something other than that in a human, their goodness as the foundation of them, they might be behaving horribly and hurtfully. So I'm not saying that human beings always do the right thing. That's a totally different thing. I'm saying human beings are inherently good. They can do horrible things, though, because they are forgetting that they are inherently good. They're not doing horrible things because they're horrible. They're doing horrible things because they're forgetting their goodness and the goodness of others. So if a human being is mistreating me or someone else, and I'm looking at them and I think they're a horrible person, a horrible human being, I'm being blinded by something. I'm being blinded by emotions and judgments. The reality of a human being is they're inherently good. If I can't keep seeing that, even as at the very same time I see the horrible behavior, then I've lost my ability to heal the situation. I've lost connection with my own being, which is the even bigger tragedy. I've let someone else's bad behavior trick me out of my own being, connection and awareness of my own goodness and love and connection with all things. That happens to all of us. And it happens because we get triggered. What gets triggered? Judgments, emotions. That's what gets triggered. So we have to separate. We don't want to act out on outrage. Well, that may not be true. Some outrage comes as a impersonal movement of energy that sets something aright that was being treated badly, a person, a thing. Outrage comes up and sets it aright, and then it's gone. One of the key qualities of outrage is that it comes up quickly and spontaneously, and then it disappears just as quickly. If it sticks around, that's not true outrage. It's not clean outrage. What that is that's our stuff. That's our issues. people are being taught these days to live in a state of outrage. And I stumbled on to a social media platform by accident today. I mostly avoid them because of how super negative and toxic they are. And I went onto one by accident as part of a subject I was researching. I couldn't believe it, guys, how toxic it was. It was a wall on my computer screen of little videos that every one of them was just about hatred. It was about politics. I don't need to name names, but every one of them was hateful. I could see at least a lot of them weren't telling the full story, what really happened, like a camera sees. They were telling just a biased and hateful and outraged. I'm putting it in quotes because it's not genuine outrage. It's manufactured outrage. It's indulging in ego outrage. That's the kind of outrage it was. So negative. And I know that there are millions of people who are indulging in that kind of, it's not even junk food. It's worse than junk food. It's poison. It's straight up rat poison that's there to drag us in and get us addicted and get us to stay on the devices by triggering our primitive brain, our fight or flight mechanism, and our us against them mechanism. These primitive mechanisms that are there for fighting off bears and keeping ourselves safe from an attacker with an axe or something. People are triggering those responses in us and asking us to be a citizen in that state. They're asking us to be a good citizen of a democracy in that state. And my dear friends, that doesn't work. That bridge does not reach the other shore. We cannot get there from here like that. That is a poison that destroys democracies, and it's addictive just as much as crystal meth or some other really toxic drug that destroys people from the inside out. America could really use a clear the charge process right now. We all need some loving and aware guide to step forward and help us to dump out all this garbage that's been dumped in for year after year now. It's really the only way we're going to be able to protect each other and protect our democracy and protect liberty and justice for all. Those are all really valid things that most societies in the history of our planet did not have. And I would say even most societies on our planet right now do not have. It's not a default setting for human beings to have liberty and justice. I'm not saying it was ever perfect here in America, because it never was, and it isn't. But matters of degree do matter. Matters of degree matter. And we're losing degrees of liberty and justice. We're going backwards. I want to offer you, in addition to that idea of separating our charge from what's really happening or from reality so that we can judge it accurately and figure out what to do accurately, and then we take all of our charge and we handle that separately in an appropriate way for those kinds of energies. In addition to that, I want to offer you one other thought. I want to offer you another way to judge your fellow citizens in America than you're being offered right now. You're being told to judge them by many different metrics, but I think we're missing one of the most important metrics we can judge a fellow citizen by. And I know this is going to trigger people. In fact, I cannot even start to say it to you without my mind showing an image of someone going, "Oh my God, that's ridiculous." Blah, 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 blah. I mean, I can imagine all the arguments against it. But I don't think the arguments against it are very strong. I've considered them, like most things I share here, I've considered it fairly deeply. I suggest we start judging our neighbor, our fellow citizens, not by political party, because that's way too polluted right now. It's not an accurate way to judge them because the information streams that we all are a part of are very, very polluted. They're like Lake Erie in the 60s that caught on fire. It was so polluted. A lake caught on fire. That's how polluted it was. That's our information streams right now. None of us are getting clean information unless maybe you're subscribed to a service that are addressing the bias in the news. And if you're getting your information from toxic social media sites like I stumbled onto today, oh my God, I don't know how to even start pulling you out of that burning lake. Okay. But for those of you who aren't too badly poisoned, I want to suggest that you judge your neighbors by something very simple and very obvious that we're no longer seeing, which is, do they obey the laws? That's it. Do they obey the laws of the land? Are they law-abiding citizens? If they are law-abiding, I think they deserve our respect. Because if we don't respect law-abiding citizens, then we're undermining democracy. And we're basically, I think we're like teenagers tantruming at parents for not getting something that they want, who don't realize how much they are already being given by their parents. If we've grown up in America, then we've grown up with so much privilege and abundance and wealth and order that we have no perspective on it. We take it for granted so deeply on a like cellular level. We take it for granted that we don't realize why people are risking their lives to come here from all around the world, Africa, Asia, Mexico, Central and South America. People are risking their lives to sneak into this country of ours. And we know that's happening, but we don't feel their struggle in ourselves because we take it for granted. In fact, we're trying to tear down the very things that they're risking their lives to come here for. That's how much we don't see it, how special and unique America still is. And there's a lot of work to do to make it even better, but we'll never get there. We'll never do that work if we can't start working together. There is no such thing as civilization or democracy without working together, bridging the gaps with other people. So I recommend you judge others by whether they're law-abiding as a higher priority than anything else. Your law-abiding neighbors aren't your enemies, no matter what religion, race, political beliefs, and so on. They're one of us. They're one of those people who cares about democracy and civilization. We're going to miss it when it's gone if we don't do something to keep it and to restore it and then to make it even better than it was. Love you guys.